We live? We live. We in the house. We in the house. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another fabulous show of Let's Talk About It, where we are here each and every Wednesday to bring you news that you can use. This platform is for you to kind of come on down, be a part of the show in order to build those bridges, build those, fill in those gaps, you know, to basically empower and enhance and educate you, the community, on topics and issues and concerns that we face on a daily basis within our community. We got a special guest in the house, but before we kind of, you know, get to Mr. Faji, who's in the crib, Brother Joe, what's going on with you, man?
Oh, just having a good day, man. Nice
and he still don't got his mic up to his mouth, so he's...
Yeah,
we're on the wrong
page again, so I'm trying to figure that out here.
Man, you know, it's another nice day. I know, you know, we had a couple of late storms overnight last couple of days, you know, which kind of knocked out some power, you know, and hopefully those people power back on and didn't nobody lose too much food, you know, things of that nature. Hey, real quick, I just have to kind of say this little side note. There's been this compare and contrast, or a seed watermelon versus a seedless watermelon.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Wait a minute.
Yeah.
So my boy he over here, Faji, you know, he got some folks that sent him a photo, y'all, of a watermelon, and that was extremely large in size, but it was a seeded watermelon.
Yes.
You know, and so it's just looked like that darn thing was on steroids or whatever the case may be. But
fresh from Mississippi, good sunshine.
Right. And I do want to let folks know that there is a really good basketball game on tonight. You know, we keep talking about how well the Minnesota Lynx are doing. They are 22-5 or something like that there, and they're playing the New York Liberty, who are like 17-8 or something like that. And this is kind of a preview of kind of what happened last year in the playoffs. You know, and they're here and in Minnesota tonight. So it's going to be real interesting to kind of see if Minnesota can kind of, you know, set that tone and get the job done. But that game does start at 7 o'clock. And so I'm looking to kind of, you know, get home and be able to watch that and see them, you know, them beautiful Lynx kind of, you know, take that victory as they're getting ready to round that corner for playoff time. But before we get started, because we're going to be talking about the work that's being done in the community, the trauma that it is causing, the work, the trauma. Brother Joe.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. I think we finally got it together. For some reason, though, I'm just still not hearing me in the mic. I'm hearing chop, chop, chop. Are you guys getting me across okay?
I'm hearing you.
Okay. Yeah.
So, you know, we started and end every show with that backpack.
You are coming in a little choppy.
Yeah, it's cutting out, so I'm not sure what's going on here.
We might be having a little bit of technical difficulty here.
How about that? No, still kind of, yeah.
It's a lot better than what it was.
Yeah.
All right. So, like I say, we start in every show with that backpack, man.
Yeah, that famous backpack.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me try and mount it. Maybe that will help, because I don't know
I don't know. Want to go grab him?
Is that better?
Yeah.
For now.
Yeah.
Hey, let me see. Yeah, that. Go ahead and
that kind of helps it out. So yeah, you know, we start milling every show with the backpack, and then we just ask that everybody respect everyone's wishes. You know, comments, statements like that. Make sure that you are inboxing us. We have any questions or comments, and we'll respond to. If not on this show, the very next show. Now, that backpack consists of making sure you got your driver's license and insurance before you get in that vehicle. Remember to place them above the visor. That way, if stopped by law enforcement, it's easily accessible and not mistaken for a weapon. Remember to stay calm. Keep your hands where they can be seen. Allow the officer to go through his spiel, and as always, always, always make it on home to your loved ones. Same thing when walking down the street. Make sure you have your driver's license credentials or ID where it's easily accessible. Remember to stay calm, keep your hands where they can be seen, allow the officer to go through his spiel, and as always, make it on home to your loved ones. You know, we hit you with that backpack to make sure that your contact with law enforcement always ends with you making it home safely to your family. Remember, if there's something you don't agree with, something the officer did that you didn't like, remember, you can always talk about it in a safe environment when it's safe to do so, but we want to make sure that you're making on home to your families.
Absolutely. And again, I just want to kind of piggyback just a little bit. I want to ensure that we truly understand the uptick in firearm purchases for young folks. Remember, they've lowered the age down to 18, from 21 down to 18, that's able to purchase a firearm. And obtain a permit to purchase and also a permit to carry. Parents, please make sure that you're investing in your kids and kind of knowing exactly what they're doing, how they're doing, who they're doing it with, et cetera, et cetera. We cannot just fully negate that it takes a village to raise our kids out here. And even though that they have lowered the age, they have not increased the education piece or the training piece. So we have to make sure that these individuals truly understand the liability, the accountability, the responsibility, the legalities that it takes to really be a permit to carry holder, a positive and productive permit to carry holder. And again, if you have any questions, comments, concerns regarding that, and you need further information or whatever the case may be, I can definitely help you out with that and get you in contact with the right people. You can reach me at 612-702-9849. Again, 612-702-9849.
I want to piggyback on that too, there, Beeks. I would love to see kind of a community-based safety course out there. And the only reason I say that is because even with the gun laws changing the way they have, that generally only affects law-abiding citizens. And a lot of our kids are not coming in contact with firearms through the dealer process. They're coming in contact with them on the streets. Oh. And so a lot of them are, like we've had several incidents where there were fatalities over the last few months involving the same individual. Him loaning guns to kids that were young, and they discharged into people unintentionally. Mm-hmm. And so I just want to make sure that at least they have that familiarity with what they're possessing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, again, if there's an entity or even individuals, families, whatnot, that are seeking, to have these educational opportunities completed for yourself and maybe even your youngsters within your home or within your organizations when it kind of comes to active shooters, et cetera, et cetera. Mm-hmm. Again, please feel free to reach out, and we can definitely help make sure that you get in touch with the right people to make that type of training happen. Mm-hmm. But I don't want to waste another valuable second as I need to introduce my guy, my man, Mr. Faji Shahir. I always want to make sure I pronounce your name correctly, bruh.
I think about it like Farji.
Farji Shahir.
Yes, sir. Yes,
all right. Man, we go back some years. We go back some years, bruh.
Yes, sir.
And it was a blessing to run into you here recently.
Most definitely.
You know what I'm saying? And to be able to bring you here in on the show, to be able to talk to the people, about who you are and kind of some of the things that you're doing and have been doing for quite some time.
Yes, sir.
And again, this is about individuals like yourself that's offering services and resources to the community to help educate, empower, and enhance the community as a whole, right?
That is correct.
So with that being said, brother, for those that don't know Mr. Farji,
what up?
You know what I'm saying? Let them know.
All right. So first of all, I appreciate y'all for allowing me to be able to sit here amongst two great men on this platform to bring forth some of the issues and some of the concerns that I've been observing while doing the work that I've been doing over the last, I would say, 20 plus years. So for those that don't know, my name is Farji Shahir. a.k.a. Mr. Hennepin County Medical Center. Started at HCMC back in 2000.
Yeah.
Long career in healthcare. Pretty much just working my way through the motions, through the channels, learning the policies, moving my way up through the ranks. Started in dietary. So, you know, a lot of people don't know that, you know, a career can start just by you opening the door and starting somewhere.
Absolutely.
As an entry-level position.
Absolutely.
Worked my way up. Got to acute psychiatric services, mental health worker, mental health professional by trade. 23 years inside of ACMC, pretty much advocating for equitable care. Being on the front lines of individuals who were dealing with crisis inside of the community, and then being inside of that space to provide the support needed for them to make it through their visit at the hospital as least traumatizing as possible. In 2016, I was tasked with creating Hennepin County Medical Center's first violence intervention program, alongside with the City of Minneapolis, the Office of Justice Programs, and various other individuals inside the hospital that kind of served as a barrier between some of the politics and some of the real work. So I value every last one of those individuals. Being one of the founding members of Minnesota's first hospital-based violence intervention program kind of heightened my senses as to what was going on in regards to gun violence. So for those that don't know, a hospital-based violence intervention program is a program designed to assist individuals who have sustained some form of gunshot wound, or to support family members who just experienced a recent homicide or a shooting of a loved one, to help them navigate that trauma in hopes to reduce retaliation, recidivism, reduce some of the depression, some of the suicidal kind of behavior that young men and women kind of exhibit in our community in these days and ages. While doing all that work, of course, I'm taking on all this information, and I'm noticing some of the gaps, some of the barriers inside of healthcare. And you know, at first it was like, you know, it's the institution designed to set us up, the system designed to set us up, but the system is actually put in place to help us. It's the individuals inside that system that's kind of playing gatekeeper, or they having issues with their ego. Some of them get pretentious. They get a title. They start changing. You know, their title is more important than the care that they are actually supposed to be giving individuals. And those are some of the individuals that's in power inside these institutions. True indeed, it's policies and procedures to support the behavior. But we could change the institutions if we are applying ourselves and actually putting ourselves in the middle of those institutions to apply that active change. And that's my life goal. That's my life goal. I love getting involved. I love working inside institutions, kind of learning what's going on, working with them, trying to build out collaborative efforts. But in the end, you run into individuals that don't want to see certain things succeed.
Absolutely. You know, it's interesting on how we're talking about, you know, the trauma, you know, the work, you know, that's being done, you know, in our community. And Joe and I, we've had, you know, numerous guests, and we've had, you know, even more conversations kind of among ourselves and individuals in the community. And when we're talking about, you know, running into those barriers, right? And we were kind of talking off camera just prior to, you know, Joe has made it abundantly clear on what it looks like to truly be a pioneer, no matter in what field or program or whatever it is, right? And we were talking about when we run into those barriers, you know, you still need to be able to kind of stand on what it is, you know, in order for you to see that true change, right?
Right.
And then we also then need to make sure that we're standing together.
Yes, indeed.
And that's, again, what this platform here at Let's Talk About It is all about, is helping build those platforms and, you know, bring those bridges together and so on and so forth. So then, therefore, we're not, you know, not wanting to work with a certain individual just because of this or just because of that. That's not what we do. But I know that when we're talking about, you know, the work that's being done by those in the community and the trauma that you guys, you know, even go through, can you elaborate a little bit more? And here's the big question, is when you are experiencing trauma, you know, who do you go to? How do you handle your trauma? Because trauma is definitely real, and we're all experiencing trauma.
It's real. It's real. And you know what I mean? A lot of us suffer from PTSD just by being in the communities in which we live. Like, it's so real. But like it's part of the reason why I founded Innovative Solutions. So working inside of the hospital, seeing those barriers, seeing the policies and procedures, the individuals that were, you know what I'm saying, holding the positions of power, but also playing gatekeeper at the same time is the reason why I founded Innovative Solutions to kind of fill those gaps. So that's the nonprofit based out of the Twin Cities, providing support and extended follow-up needed for individuals that are currently trying to navigate hostile situations.
Right.
One of my biggest things is like when you get on the scene, you know, you want to do the good work, and then you start hearing the whispers come from community about who you shouldn't work with, who is this person, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. That's traumatizing. For one, you know what I mean? You want to be able to work collectively with the individuals that you're in the community with. Me coming into the game, I spent 23 years inside of a hospital. I was inside the institution learning how to navigate the institutional policies surrounding our health. And when I started noticing some of the politics that was going on outside in the community organizations, it was a big shock. Like I didn't expect the separation that I saw. I didn't expect the backbiting, the way that they do each other. I didn't expect, you know, the tensions to be the way that they were. The way people talk about you on radio, you know, and say your name, and like all of that was new to me.
Right.
And it's traumatizing because I'm doing the work that I do. So I'm already trying to navigate these situations with these young men and women to keep them from shooting and killing each other. And then on top of that, while I'm trying to do the work, I got to run into organizations that are out to do some of the same harm.
So my question, brother, is how do you then deal with that type of stuff?
Man, dealing with it is rough. One of the main things that I decided to do was to not no judgment. I'm not going to judge nobody. I'm willing to work with any and everybody. That was the way that I kind of handle it. But then it was also the reserves.
Right.
You know what I mean? Making sure that I stayed cautious, making sure that I didn't get involved in the bacon chasing, not being financially driven. And then in regards to like my personal health, I love dogs. So walking with the dogs, going down to the river, spending time on the water, slowly removing myself from some of the toxic environment so that I can understand and have the insight to be able to deal with the toxic environment.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of how I started navigating.
So when you're talking about, you know, being a founder and things of that nature, you know, even Brother Joe, you know, was the founder, co-founder, rest in peace, you know, Brother Mark, who's no longer with us, of Twin Cities, you know, social recovery.
Okay.
It used to be Twin Cities Social Club, and then
Twin Cities Recovery Project.
Yeah, then it was
Yeah, familiar.
So you know, even Joe, you know, is extremely familiar, and I had the honor of being a board member, you know, at one time when we first kind of got started, and I'll have to tell you the story, you know, off camera on how Brother Joe and I met, but it is a very hilarious story. But nevertheless, you know, I was blessed to be in the presence of this brother, and we've then hit it off as good friends, you know, ever since.
Nice.
And I'm, you know, proud to, you know, call him my friend, my brother, you know, and we've stood shoulder to shoulder on a number of things, you know, since then. And I do, you know, also want to make it abundantly clear, as you know, those may already know, is, you know, Brother Joe is running, you know, for Hennepin County Sheriff.
Okay.
And these are the type of programs that, you know, we want to know about, we want to be involved with, as we, you know, get into that seat.
Right.
You know, we want to be involved, you know, in the community. You know, we want to be extremely transparent on what's going on, you know, things of that nature. We want to have an open door policy for folks to be able to call or come on down. Now, I get it. You know, it sounds pretty cliche, right? There's a lot of things that, you know, that I might have to say, man, I'm going to have to get back to you on, or whatever the case may be. But, and I'm not necessarily saying our current administration is not doing some of those things. We just think, feel, and believe that we can do it better.
Yes, sir.
You know, and with that, again, there's going to be a lot of pushback on a lot of different things, just based off of some of our ideas, some of our plans, you know, that we have to better you know, the county of Hennepin, you know, and those who live and work, you know, and visit on a daily basis.
Right.
So
no, they say they won't change until change come knocking at the door.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And I've noticed that in so many different arenas, because Hennepin County is just a portion of my career. I also worked at the BCA. I also worked inside of St. Paul Public Schools. I worked inside of the rec centers. So I've been able to see these trends amongst our youth particularly.
Right.
And a lot of people say, oh, we won't change. But then when it actually makes it to the door, you have the gatekeepers who are more worried about their titles slamming the door in the individuals' faces that's actually able to create that change. I've been on that end for a nice little minute. And I've been able to bob and weave and take the punches, because it's not a financial gain for me. It's not money that does it for me. Being able to help my community does it for me.
Absolutely. You know, I've said for a long time that we have way too many individuals and entities that's placing personal, political, and financial gain in front of doing what's right for the people.
Yeah.
You know,
It's a problem.
It's
a true problem.
Right.
It's a mental block.
Yeah.
Because when people's
perceptions is what holds us back. You know what I mean? It's been this way for so long. Why do you want to change? It worked this long. You know, Hennepin in itself, one of the big things I noticed is, so why are we, like, we're going to do the work up until those other agencies kick in, when it's actually Hennepin's job to take care of the county, and then those other agencies fill in where we can't. But it's been flipped. And you find that more people have found ways to do the job, and Hennepin saying, well, we'll do what they couldn't do here and there. So there's no uniformity throughout the county. And so that's the problem that we run into. And then when you get to splinter organizations who have been given funding under the table or on the side to do what they do, that's where the problem is. Because you know, we're all fighting for these small amount of monies. And so there is not a shop that's actually teaching these folks that they need to be looking for more money. Right, because we're fighting over smaller amounts of money and not asking properly for what we need to do what we need to do. So that's what I see on a regular basis.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been seeing it where the organizations will start pitting against each other for the scraps of bacon that's coming from city council, when it's actually a whole pig inside that building. We in here fighting over bacon. You know what I mean? And it's not even enough bacon to really sustain anything. Actually, like, you got to be extremely strategic to be able to utilize the funding, the bacon, in order to make your programs work. You got to. A lot of people don't think about the lawyer fees, the accountant fees, the databases, the websites. All of that stuff take time and development. And that little bit of money that we getting, you know what I'm saying? It's not enough to sustain. So what we fighting for? We need to learn how to piece it together so that you get 75, you get 75, I got 75, now we got 225. Let's really make something happen.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Versus, oh, let me get my 75 and then I'm going to run over here and do what I got to do and I ain't going to say nothing. You know what I mean? But what happens, the real acts of change come when individuals who have that vision get into those spaces and start creating that change.
You know, it is quite ironic and it's very interesting that out of all of our guests that we've had on the show, you know, you guys have said the exact same thing when it kind of comes to that. You know, and it's unfortunate, you know, that that is so prevalent that everyone knows about it, but ain't nothing being done about it.
Ain't nothing being done.
Well, that's the important part of it, because it's a valid distraction that's meant to be there, right? As long as we're distracted fighting over the funding and things of that nature, then we're not doing the work. Right? And so without doing the work, we're still circling the wagons. I mean, here's one of the big things I found. When we founded the Organization for Recovery, you know, they were saying, oh, it's an epidemic, we need to do something. And I said, well, if it's that bad, why we aren't setting up shop ground zero, right? Why are we having to go through third-party organizations to qualify for funding to fix this when we already are dying? That doesn't qualify us as a need. What else will? Right? And then so when you get out here and you start rubbing elbows with these community groups that you feel look like you, that identify with what you're trying to do, and they go, yeah, I can't do that because I'm plugged over here, and if I do that over here, it looks different.
Absolutely.
Right? And so you start going, wait a minute, I thought our goal was to just help people.
Right.
I thought we were all trying to just help the people. That's not the case. And it's mind blowing because now then you got to regroup and go, okay, I got to plow through this just to get over there. And the whole time they throwing leaves my way.
Yeah.
So,
right.
No, it's part of the reason why, you know, Innovative Solution kind of stay out the way. You know what I mean? We do our events, we do our work. It's under the radar. I always looked at when combating violence, sometimes you got to move in secrecy. You know what I mean? You got to keep a low profile and work with the individuals you're working with, get them what they need without looking for the camera to know to get that recognition.
Right.
Like that's how we've been able to survive. And then when it comes to the funding, we don't chase the dollars. It's not about the dollars. It's true indeed. You need the money in order to function. But what I've noticed as well is it's got to be a lane open for self-sustainability. It's only so much we can constantly keep asking individuals to fund our programs, and we're not developing the things that are needed to actually fund our own programs.
Absolutely.
Right.
So when we talk about trends, right, and we see these trends, you know, in every faction, you know, no matter if it's law enforcement, if it's public health,
violence prevention,
all of it,
food
right?
equity.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, you know, when we're talking about these trends and things of that nature, you had kind of posed a question is how are we learning to be able to heal, you know, in our current environment?
Right.
You know.
Right. No, healing is the biggest barrier for a lot of us because we keep going. And then, you know, we doing this work, not only are we coming into contact with the situations that are happening in vicarious trauma by seeing someone else get harmed, but we also navigating the harm that's being done to us. Healing, it takes the initiative to finally say, okay, I need to take time for myself. In the last couple of years, I finally learned what that felt like. You know what I mean? Because I spent so much time working that I never took time for myself. And it's extremely difficult when we living in the environment that we living in to actually get that time to heal, because every time you turn around, it's some new epidemic going on in our neighborhoods. We tried to heal from gun violence, then we got hit with fentanyl. We trying to get through fentanyl, now they dealing with trafficking and kidnapping. And then on top of that, we dealing with this environment that's, in my opinion, meant to kind of press all the life up out you. You know what I mean? You got to be intentional about your healing time. And that's something that I've been learning along the way. One thing that I've definitely tapped into is nature proficiency. A lot of us forget because we're so stuck inside the city that there's areas outside this city where we can go and take walks. We can go and get a peace of mind.
Absolutely.
I started dealing with, I love boats. You know what I'm saying? I've been boating for the last 15, 20 years of my life. Get on a boat. Get out in nature. You know, observe what's out there, and then when you do go into nature, don't take everything that's with you from the house. You don't want to be outside with a TV. You don't want to be outside all on your phone. Literally be intentional about taking that time to gain that insight. And then once you start gaining that insight, you develop the ability to kind of navigate through everything that's going on. And that's kind of the space that I'm in right now. It's like I took that time, I evaluated what was happening. It was a war zone outside. Right. You got kids killing each other, you got organizations fighting, you got people with state politics that don't know nothing about what's going on, that's dictating where the money should go, giving the money to people. We just had Feeding Our Future happen. You know what I'm saying? Like all these millions, all these individuals that can say, oh yeah, you know, we can do X, Y, and Z, but they don't have a true understanding of what's going on in the community.
Indeed.
And true, they can write a fancy grant, get a few million, but now with everything that's going on in the news, we see what's happening. Right. You get all that money, you can't track it.
And with that being said, Joe, you know, as you know, you are, you know, running for Hennepin County Sheriff, and a lot of this stuff is happening, you know, right here in Hennepin County, right? And we're talking about, you know, the healing and our current environment and things of that nature. The Hennepin County Sheriff Department plays a huge role and kind of dictates, or kind of sets the tone, you know, in a lot of this healing that we're trying to obtain, as we're seeing and kind of going through all these different trends and these different traumatic situations and things of that nature. What is some of the things that as a Hennepin County Sheriff-elect will do to kind of help bridge that gap, if you will?
Look, you have to move outside the framework. I give Sheriff Witt, her due because she's done a great job with working inside of the framework. But part of being a leader means you have to be willing to step outside of that, right? You got to step outside of the framework because we know it hasn't worked, all right? Unfortunately, we are being taught that success is pursuing the black community for the things they've done wrong. That doesn't fix it, right? I'm trying to teach cops that it's okay to utilize discretional authority. The same discretional authority that you use in more affluent communities, let's use it in our inner city where we're being impacted more. So we're entering kids into the criminal justice system that don't necessarily need to be there, right? Is it an arrestable moment or a teachable moment? So you're boxing people in to lifetime situations, which causes recidivism. So in order for us to change that, we have to look at the county and say, how can we reprogram people, right? How can we actually change this? We haven't even made any changes, right? We got the Minneapolis Police Department who are starting to do some better things now, but the problem is the trauma they've caused in the past still has not been addressed. No one's been held accountable. So you can't get people to accept that this better now when it's never been fixed. We still got people in jail from those mistakes that those police officers made and the bad choices they made, right? We haven't fixed that. We still got families traumatized. So when we dig in as a sheriff department, as a county to fix things, we have to start from what's broken and admit it. And most importantly, we need that blueprint. Because without that blueprint, how are we gauging where we are in the process? What did we actually fix? What do we need to fix next? Where are we moving? And that just hasn't happened. It hasn't happened. So that's what I intend to do. I'm going to have those, deputies that are making direct contact with each police department. We're going to make sure that every police department in the county are using the same standards, right? Treating people with respect, kindness. Are we trying to resolve situations, or are we trying to arrest people? You're supposed to be there to educate people so they don't have to go to jail, not to see how many people we can arrest. Right? So we can't gauge success by, using a RICO on young black men who are out here street hustlers and calling them drug dealers. They're not traffickers, right? These guys are hustling. And we know that because when they get in custody, they don't have the money to get the type of law protection that they would normally get if they were. Right, absolutely. So that's what we're not seeing. And we're not talking about how they're being impacted at the justice level where they're getting 10 minutes with a public defender before going into court, making a life-altering decision that's going to affect them for the rest of their life. And so these are the things that we have to impact. It's a blanket, right? It's the county's job to protect the county. The police departments are caviar, right? That's the extras. But it's our job to keep the county safe, whether we have that police department or not. But most importantly, people need to understand that the police department's authorities come from the sheriff, right? And it's the sheriff's job to police the police. That's not happening. Right.
Absolutely.
Man, you mentioned a couple things that's been on my mind for a minute. The accountability piece, right? We was literally just talking about the accountability because a lot of the times we look and be like, okay, we hold everyone else accountable. But at some point, as an institution, as an entity, where do we hold ourselves accountable at? And I'm thinking about like all the mistakes, being able to own up and say, you know what, I messed up. This went wrong. We did this wrong. We agree with you that it's wrong, and we're not just going to keep upholding this standard of which the individuals can do certain things and certain institutions can do certain things within our community and then not be able to hold them accountable for it. While they stressing, we're going to hold y'all accountable because they're going to take them boys to jail, but they're not going to admit when they wrong for taking them to jail.
Exactly.
That's a big issue that's been, it's been on my mind all day in regards to accountability. And the other piece was the way the black community is used as the testing grounds on so many different levels. So you got we talk about law enforcement, healthcare, the school system. All of this is like testing grounds for our community, where our community is kind of used to try out the new tactics, like pulling out the big guns and the big raid machines. Like as soon as they come in, the North Minneapolis, that's the testing grounds for all that military warfare type material. You know?
Which is crazy because we're telling our kids they need to trust the police department, but we got unmarked squads jumping out on people on the street, broad daylight,
Yeah.
putting them at gunpoint and things of that nature, and I mean, and that's traumatizing.
Yeah.
That's traumatizing.
Man.
And so, I mean, here's my thought though. You know, the goal is to prevent. We don't want to constantly be reacting. We want to prevent. And
Right.
so we need those MARC squads out there on a regular basis so it makes people think about doing something wrong. We don't want to hide so they can do something and we catch them. Because even with the Fed investigation, I still say, why did you wait till 7 people died? You should have stopped them before the first guy died. I thought all life was important,
Right.
Right.
So you built a RICO case based on this one and that one dying, but we could have stopped it,
Right.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the important part to me is let's get it before it gets to that point.
Absolutely.
You know, and so that hasn't happened, and it's said that we're gauging success on the fact that we arrested large groups of our African American men, and then the sad part of it is that they're not even getting the same justice.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
The
As
testing.
their counterparts, because their Caucasian counterparts are getting those charges in some cases with more narcotics in possession, but they're getting a slap on the wrist, right? They're getting a pass.
So when we talk about, you know, self-sustainability,
Yes.
you know, you talked about, you know, we're fighting over strips of bacon, but yet we still have the whole hog, you know, inside the facility. You know, we talk about these various trends that we have seen in all, like you said, the education, you know, the healthcare, law enforcement, et cetera, et cetera. You know, we've heard about, you know, the prison, the prison pipeline, or school to prison pipeline, you know, things of that nature. You know, all of these things are real. You know, we see these individuals overdosing all the time. We see individuals standing in long lines, you know, to get their methadone, you know, to counteract, you know, whatever it is that they're kind of dealing with. You know, we see, you know, mental health, you know, on a daily basis.
I'm telling you, acceptability. You walk around, you drive around just Minneapolis alone, and you see people laying on the ground in the middle of the street. You see them laying on the side of the sidewalks, 90, 80-degree weather, on their back, face up, passed out, sleep. Squad after squad passes by. When do we stop and say, are you okay? Do you need some water? Are there resources? Listen, we can't fix everybody, but we can sure give them the motivation to get it together. Right? You're running for city council, you're trying to be the mayor. Have you took a look at the city to see what really, because I'm not interested in what you're doing in the office. I'm looking at the people in real life daily.
Right.
And we're not giving people basic care, essentials, like treating them like humans. Why is it acceptable for someone to be on the ground in the middle of the roadway, sleep, and no one check on them? Less than a mile from the average police department. I mean, you know, these are the things that I'm seeing.
So you know, one of the things that I've kind of noticed, and please, you know, because I'm not as informed on the, you know, the medical piece that you're kind of coming from, background you're kind of coming from, but I do know that at least within law enforcement, you know, and maybe in the school systems, that they fail to involve the community.
Yes.
They making a lot of decisions and choices, as Joe has stated previously, without involving the community.
That's
and
correct.
I think that is, you know, a huge factor in why we are falling so short in having these positive and productive outcomes that we talk about and that we want and that we need and desire,
Right.
but yet we continue to fall short. And and again, I think that, you know, the medical folks, you know, want to kind of do their thing. Law enforcement kind of want to do their thing. The education system want to do their thing, et cetera, et cetera. And we'll get to you on a need-to-know type of basis, right?
Right.
How do we encourage, you know, our people from the inner city, if you will, no matter if you're African American or whatever, but primarily African American,
Right.
how do we encourage our people, you know what I'm saying, to even know their neighbor, as we always talk about, but yet even take it a step further, because they know, you know, the dude working at the counter, you know, at the corner store that's been there for like the last 20 years, you know, and they go in there and spend, you know, $10, $15, you know, every day, you know, buying various little knickknacks and so on and so forth. How do we encourage them to get involved with their city council, with their law enforcement, with their health care, with their child's education, you know, things of that nature. So then therefore we can have the type of outcome, because we say it all the time. Oh, I bet you they won't have that out in Osseo. I bet you they won't have that out in Lakeville.
We have to create those pathways to understand it. I mean, the problem is not many people truly understand how a bill becomes a law. Right? They don't understand how to approach their congressman or their representative to make sure that they can get this on the floor to change that. A lot of people are okay with coming together complaining. We always, oh, I'm sick of this, I'm sick of this. But we really have to come together and go, okay, we all know the famous term is, oh, you know, the system's broken. Got it.
Got to fix it.
Now, when do we intend to fix it? And I like to put deadlines on things. Okay, so we know the tire is flat. Will you have a new one on there by Thursday, right? Because it's no good to keep talking about it being broken.
Right.
The goal we need today is how we gonna get a new tire on here, where the tire's coming from, who's gonna do it, how much it's gonna cost, how are we gonna get to this finished product, and that just hasn't happened.
Right.
And so we have a lot of conversations about what's wrong in our community without actually putting together a plan of action and following through. Martin Luther King, that's what made him so great, was because he found a way to unite people under morality. We all saw something wrong and wanted to fix it. It was not by chance that he asked all those Caucasian clergymen to come down there for the March on Selma. He knew the world would be watching, right? He knew it. And the plan was, once they got a chance to see America's savagery at its best, right, then the rest of the world would be forced to say, hey, man, you talking about we savages. Look at you, right? You see what I'm saying? So that's what had to happen. Now, we had our chance during the George Floyd uprising, okay? And we just really never got behind it properly. And so, you know, splinter groups were here and there. Black Lives Matter laid a lot of money in that. But when you ask Black Lives Matter, you know, have you decided that some of those funds should go toward black-on-black crime, education, and prevention? They'll tell you in a heartbeat, that's not what we do. Right. And so in my mind, well, what are we doing then? Because all lives must matter, whether there's a police officer involved or not. And sadly enough, we're losing more young men and women due to the same combat wounds that we have soldiers abroad, right, every day. These are armor-piercing weapons that they're being shot with, you know? And so when you're teaching a kid trauma now, you're teaching them, you know, large impact wounds, arms almost blown off, huge holes. This is terrible, but this is what's happening. And we're not talking about it. It's not on the news, right? It is not on the news when 10 people that are African-American are shot and killed. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
If we had the same effort that they put into bringing the senator's shooter to justice, and I'm not making light of it, but if we had that same law enforcement effort each time someone was shot in our community, then there would be some arrests made. Right now, there's a 75 or 85% chance in the metropolitan area that if you shoot somebody, you're going to get away with it. And we got cameras on every block. Right? So this, whether they want to admit it or not, it is selective law enforcement, and we need to do a better job.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then when it comes to actually getting into those spaces, for one, I mean, our community is extremely traumatized. It's few and far in between where you can actually find stand-up dudes that ain't outside just always trying to get high, get drunk. You know, you don't find stand-up dudes that open the doors for the older women in our community the way they do. You don't have the stand-up dudes that's actually trying to teach these shorties how to do something righteously by exposing them to something that they've never been exposed to. We have this, like, this parasitic, and I'll take it back to the Willie Lynch letter every time, because it's like you have certain classes and certain individuals just trying to make that change and create that impact, but then you also have individuals in the community that's going to try to pull them in, pull them down. You know what I mean? Like, and when I think about young black men becoming martyrs, similar to what Martin Luther King was dealing with, you know what I mean? Like, they want to step up to the plate, but we done seen, we've watched so many of our elders get done wrong that it's actually traumatizing for somebody to even speak up. Me even speaking my truth was traumatizing. No, everything that I've been through. You know what I'm saying? All the people that watched me go through what I went through, they saw me climb. They saw it when it failed. They saw everything. And I'm still kind of like traumatized to express my truth in reflection of like, oh man, they might do me in wrong. Me owning my truth and bringing my truth to the table is not what they really want. They said they wanted change when they brought me in, but when the change started happening, they did me wrong. That's trauma. And then to be able to speak on it is even more traumatizing because they'll try to traumatize you again. Yeah. And I've been in spaces where working all these institutions that I've worked in and actually witnessing some of the behavior or the conduct of the individuals inside these systems against each other. It's mind-boggling. And as a human being, as a man, if you don't have the moxie to make it through that, if you don't have the moxie to deal with the way people gonna try to throw you under the bus or try to tarnish your name or try to remove you from some of the things that you've created and tried to imply in regards to change, some brothers will commit suicide. Mm-hmm. It's that hard, you know what I mean? Because for one, you dealing with the trauma that's going on in your community. That's traumatizing in itself. You're going into a space where not everybody want to let you in because of what you've been through, especially if you're from the streets. Right, if you speak with a little swag or you move a little different, you're going to get judged by Caucasians and other collegiate African Americans. They're going to look at you like you sideways. And then you bringing in the change. They want the ideas from you, but they just don't want you to be that person to say it. And then you end up putting yourself in a position to where now you're not only traumatized in the neighborhood you live in, but you traumatized at work. Right, you traumatized by the policies. You traumatized by the individuals inside your space that's supposed to help you create that change.
Right, absolutely.
That's why so many of them just be like, you know what? I'm just going to go grab me something out the liquor store, and I'm going to go back home and smoke me a blunt. Mm-hmm. It's too much pressure. A lot of the shorties that keep going back to jail, it's too much pressure for them to come outside and actually try to sustain something. They figure jail going to be easier. I had a young man tell me, I ain't got to pay rent in jail. So you'd rather go back to jail so that you don't have to worry about paying rent. Life can't be that hard. But as an African-American man, in some cases, if you don't have the moxie and the intelligence and the discipline, you're going to crack.
Absolutely. Well,
I'm sorry.
No.
I got passionate about that because it's so real. Like seeing it up front.
There's nothing to apologize, brother, because everything that we talk on here, you know what I'm saying, is real.
It's real.
It's real in real life, and even if it's just real to you, it's real.
It's real.
You feel what I'm saying? I do know that we are kind of rounding that corner, you know, of another fabulous show of Let's Talk About It, you know, where we are talking about the work, the trauma, you know, that we are facing on a daily basis on so many different levels, you know, in our communities throughout the country, you know, as a whole. You know, this is truly, you know, a pandemic. You know, it's an epidemic that we are facing throughout the country. But again, you know, I want to make it very clear, you know, that Joe and I, you know, are pro-police, but we are pro-good police. Right? For those that are out there, you know, causing harm in our communities or and not necessarily pulling guns out, you know, on individuals or the community or throwing folks down or whatever the case may be. We're talking about the individuals that are not necessarily admitting when we got something wrong and coming up with plans and things of that nature to fix things and being able to follow up and follow through. These individuals are just as harsh, you know, having that negative impact, you know, as those that are out there, you know, on the front line.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, it's important that, you know, we're holding our family members accountable.
Absolutely.
This is the problem that we face in our communities because we're looking at the police and this one and that one to control them. But these are our family members killing family members. And it's hard for people to understand. These aren't random shootings. These aren't random acts of violence. These are friends and family members that are traumatizing each other. And so when you know, and just an example, I've talked to a few parents, and I usually ask them simple questions. What does your kid wear when he goes to school? What time does your kid go to school? When does your kid come home? Who does your kid hang out with? What does your kid like to do for fun? What's in your kid's room that you should know about? Because these are the basic things that we've kind of thrown away.
Right, absolutely.
A lot of these kids have no clue when they're going to eat dinner. right?
Yep,
Lunch, whatever. And so there is no agenda for these kids, and the parents aren't pushing an agenda.
Well, but I will say this, in all fairness, to parents, because I'll be the first one, to admit, we have a lot of single mothers out here doing the best that they can. For whatever reason, a lot of men are not stepping up. However, even though that there are some that have both parents, in the home, my oldest son, did 2 years. Now, what I've done all my life, and he's had two parents.
Right.
He did 2 years because he wanted to decide that he wanted to go out there, and tote pistols and things of that nature and be about a life that he thought he was from, and he ain't like that.
Ain't really cut like
yeah,
that.
but and when it comes to a lot of what I see though is even with the single parents though, the problem is not just being a single parent. We have to go back to the foundation. So if the parents haven't been taught, you understand what they should be teaching or what their expectation should be. See, I mean, if we got not much time, but so a lot of
and
this
he's getting ready to get into it, y'all.
Yeah, because a lot of this has stemmed since '85 when crack hit.
Crack hit.
Okay, and so a lot of these parents are the results of that. And
Absolutely.
And so without giving that the validation, it does look like, man, what's going on? But when you have a drug addicted parent passing on what their trauma was to the child, and then that trauma getting passed on. This is the end result.
Absolutely.
We're not smoking the crack, but we've moved it down now, right, to a different drug, a different, and so these kids aren't facing reality on a daily basis. They're facing right now, I can get high and whatever comes behind that. But they're lacking the self-love, the values and things that they would have normally got, and most importantly, the history of who they are, where they came from, how you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So that's what we're dealing with.
Absolutely. Well, here's the thing. We are at the end of another fabulous, show. As you see, it's very spirited. And brother, this is not the only time, that you can kind of come on. We welcome you back because obviously there's a lot more that we need to kind of talk about, right?
Yes, sir.
But before we get out of here, I want to give you about a minute.
Okay.
For you to be able to share, what you think, feel, and believe that will enhance, educate, and empower the community.
First thing, engage with your community. So Innovative Solutions developed a plan called the Block Takeover. The Block Takeover encompasses areas that have dealt with recent shootings. Getting those individuals outside to get to know each other, greet each other, under the supervision of individuals that have been trained as community peer support specialists. Having those conversations, connecting those families to the resources in real time, not taking a whole bunch of pictures and making it for the TV, but actually making it more inclusive for the communities in which we are working with. Being able to take a program like that and doing the work that we're doing all over the city and kind of building out those relationships to where neighbors start looking at each other like neighbors first off. Children, the elders in the community can look at some of the young adults in the community and have conversations about some of the things that they're doing outside in regards to popping willies on their lawn,
right.
Running up and down the street with stolen cars. Because these events, they bring out everybody from the neighborhood.
Right.
For one, there's not too many there's not too many spaces for these individuals to actually congregate and feel safe. So when you create that environment inside the community where someone can feel safe, someone can actually have a real conversation with individuals on the dirt bikes that's popping up, coming to get a hot dog or a barbecue, holler at the kids that's been running across the street coming to get toys. Like, you build out that genuine relationship to where it sustains your neighborhood.
Right.
Once you sustain that neighborhood, now you can now transfer this energy to the other neighborhoods, working in different areas where individuals might look at each other as oppositions, but when they see that one core group constantly showing up in all these different areas, it creates a significant bond.
Okay.
That's what we've been doing. So
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, we get him talking, boy.
I'm gonna try to spell it.
Hey, real quick. If anyone wanted to kind of get a hold of you and kind of get involved in things of that nature, or just be a part of what you kind of got going on, how do they contact you, real quick?
Just look me up on Facebook, Farji Shahir. I don't do a lot of social media. Facebook is my only platform. You can definitely inbox me. InnovativeSolutions.org. It's Solutions, play on words, so it's SOUL instead of SOL.
Okay.
.org.
All right, Brother Joe. They're flickering the lights on us. Again, we want to thank You know, and we can't thank enough CCX Create for allowing us to come in here each and every Wednesday, you know, to bring you news that you can use to, again, to educate, empower, and enhance you, the community, about topics and issues that we face on a daily basis. Remember that what we do is not free. You know, it takes a lot for these fine people behind the scenes to do what they do. So again, if you got a nickel, if you got 50 cents or a dollar, you know, please go on to their page, you know, donate. You know, it doesn't take much, but it is a very, very important that we continue to support, you know, CCX Create and what they do, and allowing us to be here each and every weekend. Brother Joe, I'm not going to take up too much time. I'm going to go ahead and turn it on over to you. I do want to thank our viewing audience. And again, if you have anything that you want to talk about, programs that you're doing, services, resources, please feel free to kind of come on down and be a part of Let's Talk About It. Joe.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You know, trauma is real, so make sure you're checking on your family members. Depression is real. Make sure you're making sure that those folks are A-OK. Everyone has a place in our community, right? No matter how bad you think you are, everybody fits in somewhere, right? Your trauma is your journey, so, you know, it defines who you are, so don't be ashamed of it. Control it. Accept it. You know, identify who you are and accept that and love that, right? So with that being said, you know, I'm going to go ahead and hurry up to this backpack.
That famous backpack.
That backpack consists of making sure you have your driver's license and insurance with you before you get in that vehicle. Remember to place them above the visor. That way if stopped by law enforcement, be easily accessible, won't be mistaken for a weapon. Remember to stay calm, keep your hands where they can be seen, allow the officer to go through his spiel, and as always, make it on home to your loved ones. Same theme when walking down the street. Make sure you got your driver's license or ID where it's easily accessible. Remember to stay calm, keep your hands where they can be seen, allow the officer to go through his spiel, and as always, make it on home to your loved ones. It's been another great show. As always, we look forward to seeing you guys again next Wednesday. Tune in where we'll be doing some more talking about it. My name's Joe Banks.
And I'm Anthijuan Beeks.
And we just talked about it.
Peace.